we can only consciously remember as much as our physical body and our nervous system is capable of handling at any given moment in time.
What qualities begin to emerge within us that maybe and probably has already started to happen with a lot of people that are tuning into this right now?
There was something about the psyche. It detached and it literally unplugged from the physical reality. And this is, I don't want to say the danger of like VR or AI or whatever you want to call it, but there's something about living in another world.
There's often a lot of hidden messages in plain sight.
The original wounding is not separation, it's time. Have the potential for holding a resentment against time.
Do you feel that understanding this light language on a deeper level is going to help us change the way we relate to time?
This golden timeline is less about choosing sides, and it's more about harmonizing shadow and light.
Before today's transmission, I wanted to take a minute to let you in on something that could change your life. If you've been doing the inner work and still feel like you're walking this path alone, you're not the only one. Most spiritual spaces give you endless content to consume, but not a tribe to grow with. That's why we created the Deep Dive, a living spiritual ecosystem designed to help you grow in community, rhythm, and real embodiment. Right now, our members are embarking on a journey exploring a core spiritual and practical teaching through daily activations, live community gatherings guided by me and our facilitators, and also participating in sacred challenges that are designed to help you live your practice and bring it to life. You'll be surrounded by seekers and leaders who've decided that they're done doing this work in isolation. If you're ready to find your people, visit the link in the description or scan the QR code on screen right now, and I'll see you inside. JJ Brighton, welcome back on Just Tap In. What are you most excited about right now globally and in your life?
Whew. I'm very excited globally about this era of change that we're really embracing as humanity. The astrology in the last little bit with Neptune moving into Aries like it's going to be for a while is, as many of you know, a sign of big spiritual transformation, energetic transformation. And when things are transformed energetically, it's shifting our physical reality. It's shifting our physical reality because everything is energy at the end of the day. For me personally, I'm really excited about something that you and I are going to announce today in this podcast that I will not say because that's like a little teaser. Yes. So you're going to have to wait. You're going to have to wait until a little further on in this podcast episode to hear what I am excited about. So there's that.
And it will be something in person, something that came out of nowhere synchronistically that me personally had been tuning into, and I think you picked up on that and immediately reached out. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. However, I did want to reference something that I heard you say in one of your videos once. And you said that right now humanity is at a tug of war around which master timeline we want to converge into, and that there are a dozen or so possible predominant timelines. You and I are both fans of Marvel. We've watched the Loki series where they talk about the multiverse. But I did want to explore that in a grounded way with you because I know you've been tuning into timelines, especially master timelines, and why you feel that humanity is at this tug of war right now.
Wow. Very synchronistic that you ask that, because we didn't even chat about this before we got on the call, but just today, the day that we're recording this, I hopped on an Instagram live, very impromptu, very spontaneous. I just felt like I called it prayer for peace, prayers for peace, because I feel like many of us who are empathic, many of us who are very, very aware of the energetics of what's going on in the collective consciousness are feeling all of this unrest, are feeling this discord a lot in our bodies, and we want to do something about it. Well, when I hopped on that Instagram live, I ended up bringing through a message that is really interesting. It was basically mentioning something I felt for a really long time, but it's still a thread. It's still happening, and that has to do with the fact that we're in a moment of converging all of the possible timelines, all of the timelines of Gaia into one thing that I've said to you before, one golden thread. So a golden timeline. And this golden timeline is less about choosing sides, and it's more about harmonizing shadow and light. And the interesting thing about this Instagram live I hopped on, I was sitting in front of my window at home, and the morning sun was coming in, and my blinds were creating shadow and light all across my body. And I just stayed in it because I felt that was a message. Like, we are not here to pick sides. We are here to harmonize everything. And as soon as we just see these events happening and we want to pick sides, we're resisting the convergence and the collapsing of everything into this master timeline, which for me is embodied in a concept of like a golden timeline, which most of us think that's all the pretty stuff. But it's not. It's a harmonization of all the stuff. Otherwise, you're ignoring a whole part of the experience that humanity chose to have. But we're here to honor all of it and converge it into a 0 point energy, which I think just feels more easeful in our bodies. So as far as a master timeline goes, not only do I feel like we're locking in, I would say locking in, but syncing up with and harmonizing with a quote unquote master timeline, as like the sort of central point on the spokes of a wheel, right? We're all coming into the center. I don't think that's just happening like with timelines. I think that's happening with our actual physical cells and the templates of our physical bodies. So it's like macro and micro and everywhere. And, I'm sharing that because I'm curious to know if that resonates with any of you who are listening.
Yeah, one thing that's coming up for me is that, entering, and this word of master has been coming to me so much this past year and a half or so. And to really understand what that means, like what are these qualities that are emerging as the master within us? Because if we've had multiple lifetimes, let's just say that exploratory, we've had multiple lifetimes. We've mastered many different aspects in those lifetimes. Like let's say in a lifetime I was a painter and I was a master at painting. When those aspects of ourselves converge, you call it the soul convergence, what qualities begin to emerge within us that maybe and probably has already started to happen with a lot of people that are tuning into this right now?
Whew. I always get a flood of information when you ask questions. I told you this on another podcast, one of the other interviews you did. You were talking and I was getting these downloads. So I have like two ears. One's listening to you and one's like da 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 da. We are helping to anchor a new multidimensional template for humanity. And one of the reasons we're doing this is because the children that are going to be incarnating, that are going to be born on the planet in the next, several decades, they're going to come with all those gifts. And if we don't understand that, we're going to be very confused as to why they can do a Beethoven symphony on a piano at age 3. I mean, when we see the kids that are holding those templates where they come online very early for them, particularly with art and music, that is just a taste of what all of us can access. The veil is just a little bit thin for them. I don't know if you've seen that kid that produces music. His dad is like a music producer. He can go in and he knows all of music production. He's like, I don't know, 8 years old. It's like, where did he get that? They're actually embodying what you just said because, we're stubborn. We need convincing. And it's like, okay, if you need the validation, just pay attention to the stories of the kids who have full remembrance of that stuff. and you will know that it's just as accessible to you. That's why I feel it's so important for those people who are listening to this who are older. I've really been witnessing this lately. If you're like past 60 and the world has said like you're done, go retire, go do whatever, you could literally activate templates of genius and multiple skill sets at your age now and have a completely new like life that you could enter into, because you are converging all these aspects of your soul that have existed. It's parallel, right? We say past, but it's really parallel to us that we're also converging with. Because as Gaia converges her multiple timelines, we're converging, just like you said, all of these multiple incarnations that we've had with the intention of syncing our own soul expression into a golden frequency that is able to basically express, I would say, all kinds of gifts of creativity, and genius is a word that comes in for me right now. So we can really accelerate this period of rapid ascension that Gaia is going through. Collectively, we're going through.
I'm pretty sure we've talked about this, but there's also these new templates emerging right now of intergenerational collaboration, and I feel that that's something that even as we're recording this, we're anchoring even further. But I did want to talk about how you see that these children that are coming into the scene, right, and especially you having had so much experience, having 8 kids, 4 after 2012, 4 before 2012, because you really said that was a marker year for you, and for humanity as a whole. But how do you see these new children being able to work together and collaborate with the other generations as well? Because it almost seems like there's a new human emerging, and we don't want that sense of there's a some people getting left behind, if you know what I'm trying to refer to. So yeah, how do we anchor in more of that connection between generations?
Well, you're talking about a word that came out in like the 60s, which is generation gap. And that word creates division, and it creates separation, because we're unable to see, what's so weird about all of the TikTok and Instagram memes about the generations. Like if you're this generation, you're going to act like this. And I think it's to witness that it's traditionally been seen that you're supposed to hold a template if you're from that generation. And if you don't hold that template, you're not being faithful to your generation or whatever. But what you're talking about is, let's expand beyond that concept of these striations of generations, and let's like co-create and weave older and younger. And yeah, I'm holding that in my body. I actually had 5 before 2012 and 3 after. It's funny that you said that though, because I was thinking of the one I had in 2010, and I think he was holding like a 0 point for me. There was something he was doing to like prep me for the others. Even when you said that, I was like, ooh, I wonder if I tuned in and I'm like, he doesn't feel like he's from any generation. He feels like he held 0 point energy for his brothers that came after him. And the way that I see humanity evolving to facilitate this intergenerational multidimensionality, I guess you could say, like you kind of hit the nail on the head, because if we can't even connect or converge generations, how are we going to connect with a lifetime where we lived in medieval wherever or somewhere else? Like we're not going to be able to relate to it if we can't even relate to a person a different age than us. So yeah, in order for us to really step into all of our multidimensional gifts, we have to be able to honor these seemingly different people, groups, because I'll tell you what, you were one of them once, or you carried those templates once too. And in order to bring online these different parts of us, we had to come into acceptance that we've been on both sides of that fence. We really have to integrate that shadow and light. So whatever weaknesses we see in another generation, it's less about judging it, and it's more about going, okay, I see that as a mirror of a part of me there's something in me that's a mirror of. So it's that mirroring, it's that reflection. And then once you accept the reflections, you stop projecting, right? And you soften and surrender to the harmonization of all of it into this really awesome still point energy that allows you to act from, I would say, wisdom and stillness and a very regulated nervous system, which is not what we're witnessing from the majority of the leaders on the planet.
Definitely. If we were to go to...
Very reactive.
If we were to go to ancient Egypt for a moment, you've talked about before that they would go through these initiation processes where they release the need to have this veil of forgetting every time that you were born. And I'm wondering and very curious as to why those processes of initiation, first of all, if you have any insight as to how they were doing that, and also why did those processes stop? Why did we feel the need to go back into these veils of forgetting so that we would forget all of the other lifetimes and experiences that our soul has had across multiple lifetimes and even galaxies itself?
I'm going to veer your question my own way for a second. I'm going to hijack your question. Can I hijack your question? I just want to adapt it a little bit. Because as soon as you said that, I felt that the words ancient Egypt create separation. And I feel like you guys, everybody listening to this is way more connected to quote unquote Egypt than you think. And the way we are is through Atlantis. And so I want to say to you, I'd love to answer your question, but from the framework of Atlantis, which is where all that stuff came from in Egypt.
Yes.
All of those templates were basically remnants of Atlantean stuff, mystery school, all of the things. The other word that's coming forward to me, I just said it the other day, rather than saying ancient, I keep having my team, my guys, the councils I work with, remind me it's ancient future. So like as soon as you say ancient future, you neutralize the distance that it is. You're like, oh wait, but it's past, but it's present and it's future. It's all of them. So they're like, rather than feeling like it's thousands of years ago, even Atlantis is thousands of years ago, it's really not. It's just right next door. That right there, that whole shift is actually the answer to your question, because when you were asking it, I immediately hear when you say, how did they do that? The words masters of time just dropped in. They were masters of time. You understand time, and instead of competing with time or feeling like it's your enemy, you're actually working with it, co-creating and collaborating with it, almost like a sculptor would with clay, right? It's like an art form to work with time. So I'm thinking that, the key to it has to do with time. And one more quick thing to finish this little segment, this answer. I recently created a course, we call it Pillars of Atlantis. And I'm about to go to Portugal and the Azores to really anchor that, and then Egypt right after that. It just so happens we're filming this right before I go on this huge trip that's connected to Atlantis. And one of the downloads I got, which basically I tuned in to the Akashic Records, I was asking for information about Atlantis, and I had this massive, massive aha moment that I'd never even thought to crack open, and it just was revealed to me that I always thought that our biggest wound, and especially one of the wounds that drove Atlantis, was separation, which is what we were just talking about. We were just talking about the wound of separation, and I know you've had all kinds of, you know this. In the spiritual community, we all talk about the wound of separation. That's the original wounding, like mother wound, father wound, but it's that. It's our separation from source, right? I always thought that was it. And I thought that, whatever caused all of this stuff, the fragmentation in Atlantis when they basically came in and abused their power and, all this sort of thing that's floating around in all these Akashic record stories, that it was rooted in that. They forgot that they were connected to source. And it was like, no, that's actually not accurate. Nope. what causes the illusion of separation? What causes it? Time.
Time. Yeah.
They said the original wounding is not separation, it's time. So we, as a collective, I mean, and I don't just mean we on this planet, I mean literally whoever, we have the potential for holding a resentment against time because we blame it for separating us from source, which then do you feel that?
Yeah.
Do you feel that?
Deep.
Do you feel that?
Yeah,
it's deep, Emilio. Imagine me. I'm driving to LA. I'm driving down to LAX in a car, and I have my phone notes out because I get downloads when I'm driving, and all of a sudden I just heard pull out your phone and start channeling and start accessing the records of Atlantis. So I pull out my phone, and in the end of the day, I ended up sharing the entire transmission with the group that I was that's in this course. You can actually access the course, go listen to JJ driving down the road and going, oh, and I was like crying and I was like saying all this stuff and I'm like, it's time. So to go back, again, that was a very long tangent.
Why?
To go back to what you originally asked me, they learned how to be masters of time in Egypt.
I was just going to ask there, why did it bring so much emotion for you?
There was a lot of emotion in just feeling that we've had this wound. We didn't know how to name it. We weren't sure what it was or what it was caused by. And it's close to separation. But again, you can't have separation without linear time. You can't. It doesn't exist. That's why the movie Everything Everywhere All at Once is so helpful for all of us. Because it helps us understand technically everything's existing all at one time. We chose. There's no one to blame. We chose to experience linear time, but somewhere along the way, we forgot that we made that choice. So in Atlantis, Emilio, this is what dropped in this course. As I was accessing the Akashic records, I was accessing, setting the intention to access like the core timeline where the core wound took place. Because there are infinite Atlantean timelines. That's why you have everybody and their dog sharing all this stuff, and sometimes it's contradictory. I went and saw Matthias DeStefano, and he's like, I think I watched it on like a video. He's like, there were no technology in Atlantis. It was donkeys. Like he was tuning into an Atlantean timeline where it was very rustic, right? It wasn't like advanced technology. And I was like, why is everybody channeling different things about Atlantis? Like some of it's the same, some of it's different. Well, because there are infinite amount of timelines of Atlantis. That's why I have set the intention to connect with the golden timeline. And what I saw, what's preventing us from harmonizing ourselves with the golden timeline of Atlantis, which I will tell you right now, is what's actually the linchpin for the entire planetary timeline convergence into the golden timeline. Is it that moment, that choice point was in Atlantis. They said what happened was the powers that be felt like they were in a race to ascend, and they were trying to speed up the ascension process and force the ascension process. And they exploded the crystal that was in the middle of the earth that they had designed to basically create the grids and create the frequency. I don't know. There's other people that can talk about the science of it. I don't get it. I just know my little starseed was like, Mom, this crystal was from Atlantis and there was a giant one in Atlantis and blah, 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 blah. And it's like they felt like they were competing with time. They forgot. That is only one timeline though, Emilio. That's what I was shown. That was only one timeline. But I was like, well, why does one timeline why is it making such a difference on all the other timelines? Why are we so obsessed with this one timeline where we felt like we were, racing against the clock to speed up the ascension? And they said, I can't fully understand it, but they basically said that one timeline was such a massive fractalization or fracturing of time that it then prevented us from even tuning in to the other possible timelines. It like locked us in, and we were like frozen and locked into like this Hall of Mirrors. The end. I'm done. That I could go on for a while.
Whoa. Okay. We just opened something. What I received here was they were trying to escape time in a density and third dimensional construct where time was keeping them in a way imprisoned. And I have no idea where that came from, but yeah, I mean, so when it comes to time, we hear, right? We hear everyone, that has at least understood something around spirituality and consciousness. They're like, time is an illusion. And you hear that everywhere. Yeah. And then, that can stay airy-fairy if we just keep saying time's an illusion. But at the same time, it's a very real thing that we deal with. I don't know, thing isn't the best word there, but it's a maybe like
like a force. Template? Is it? Well, okay, hang on. No, I get what you're saying. You're not saying template, although it's really funny because once you start talking about time, do you notice how many times you say time because you just said at the same time? What would happen if that word just disappeared from our conversation? Yeah. What word would we use even? I mean, there's something happening, right, with that whole thing. And so you're saying, to me, what I was shown is it's just like matter. It's a substance. How do I say this? You create with time and matter. I that's all I know, is that creation is the materials you create with are time and matter. I mean, look in the Bible, okay? Look in these texts. They separated into days. That is a measurement of time. That is the measurement of time. What does Genesis say? Right? And then you're separating matter too, the dark and the light. So there's this time and matter thing. That's all I know. That's the best way for me to say it. But I get what you're saying. It's really hard to put into words, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't know. When you were explaining the Atlantis situation, it almost seemed like they were wanting to escape time, and something around that crystal was holding time in place. I'm not sure.
Yeah, no. Hang on. Let's follow the thread because so do you understand that until we witness what happened with clarity, we cannot harmonize the timelines. That timeline, the one that I said is kind of the one that basically took all of our attention and energy away from the golden one, in a way, quote unquote. So now it's preventing us. And again, this is a story, take it or leave it, whatever. But the way I see it and the framework that I see it from that is rewiring my consciousness is to say, let's just pretend that that's a story that is such an intense story that it has diverted our attention from the golden timeline where we were successful and it was a harmonized unity consciousness timeline. And it had so much power to then draw our attention to it until we actually identify what happened with detail. Not everybody has to know this, but some of us are Akashic record, galactic record keepers, we're the ones that are bringing this in. You guys know if you're listening and you're one of them, because you're also getting downloads just like Emilio just got. But it's like unpacking it allows us to witness it. And until it's witnessed, okay, it cannot be harmonized. You cannot witness it in shadow. It must be brought to light to be witnessed and harmonized. That's what I'm getting. That's why I think you're getting information, more detail.
Yeah. Something that also was highlighted for me while you were speaking there was you mentioned how they were also wanting to accelerate this ascension process. And I'm curious to know if we would witness right now our current state, where you might see that we are also trying to replicate that acceleration for ourselves.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the biggest way that I would say people in the quote unquote spiritual community are doing that. We throw around words like spiritual bypassing and stuff like that. It's really an imbalance in accepting ascension across all layers and levels of our multidimensionality, rather than just ascending with one part of us and then the body part, well, we'll just do, So it's really groundedness and connecting with the earth and serving both the spiritual realms and all of that we do, and the channeling and everything, and being a good neighbor and not obsessing about this ascension stuff, or saying the ascension stuff is what we do over here. And when we're shopping at Walmart, that's a whole different world for us. Like, it's one and the same. Like, we cannot separate. It's out. It goes to separation in a way. Like, separation is big, even though it's not the main one for me right now, but separation is big. That's, I think, the tendency of us, because you're dissociating, right? You're dissociating. And so what I feel, what's coming to me as you say that, is they became so disconnected from their physical reality. They forgot that the project was to create, is to undertake an energetic and physical ascension process. Because the other way, you just die. Your spirit body shoots out of your physical body, and your physical body stays behind. What the goal that we all decided we wanted to try was, it's an actual physical ascension without dying. And I think they forgot that, and they were trying to force the physical ascension process. They had the intellectual ascension done and paid for, right? It was all there. But when you become so imbalanced and everything is mental, because I keep hearing psyche is like coming in so strong about Atlantis. There was something about the psyche. It detached and it literally unplugged from the physical reality. And this is, I don't want to say the danger of like VR or AI or whatever you want to call it, but there's something about living in another world where I think they were doing this stuff through like an AI or like a VR type thing, and they were like, oh, this isn't going to affect anything, and then all of a sudden it affected the physical reality. There's something about that. I think they detached. Have you seen the movie Ender's Game?
Endgame or
no,
the
Ender's
Marvel?
Game.
No.
Ender's Game.
No. So
there's a sci-fi writer, I cannot think of his name right now, very famous. I feel bad that I cannot think of his name. It's a show about these kids who they put into a video. They have these kids play a virtual reality Star Wars video game. At the end of the movie, they find out they were actually using the kids to play a real war game. And it was affecting a physical reality.
Wow.
So there's something about that coming through. I don't know. What else are you getting on this?
I'm getting, so going back to, I've heard you say before that you carry codes of remembrance, and
yeah.
And like many of us as well are carrying this remembrance and are communicating it, not just in publicly, but in our individual spaces. I would love to bring it back to the individual for a moment, because right now I've been feeling a lot as you're, weaving this together. I'm sure someone out there is also feeling and also receiving downloads, information, whatever it is. What does that truly mean to embrace an aspect of remembrance where we're actually, you say something that activates something in me, I remember something. How can we tie that into the individual's experience right now?
I love that you asked this, because the other day, this little phrase came into my mind. We can only consciously remember as much as our physical body and our nervous system is capable of handling at any given moment in time. Now, in addition to that, when we're asking to remember, quote unquote, if we're not connected to our physical body and we're dissociating, we will activate remembrance at a level that's very difficult for the body to handle, which a lot of people have had those circumstances happen while in plant medicine. And the physical body cannot integrate or make sense of it. So what I invite people to do that are in the shoes right now and are feeling sensations in their body, don't dissociate from your body. Number one is a level of DNA and cellular remembrance. After that, anything we consciously remember and then blah, blah, blah talk about with words, that's secondary. That's secondary in importance. So as long as we're opening to a level of remembrance at the level, why would we want our DNA to remember? Well, because we used to have like immortality and we had optimum health, these templates that our bodies used to have. This is like our original Eden template, our original divine blueprint, okay? So when you say that, it's just my little reminder to everybody here that's like, I want to channel, I want to access the Akashic records, blah, all of that. It's like, okay, hang on. Just you get to choose how much you consciously remember or want to remember with detail. And then after that, when you feel sensations in your body, you don't always have to understand logically or analytically what's happening. For me, it's a witnessing. So I guess my bottom line is witness the physical sensations your body's going through. Know that you're sovereign. If you're feeling a lot, like when we talk about Atlantis, Emilio, this isn't the first time that I've dealt with this part of the records, and I know what happens when people start to remember this stuff. There's actual physical reactions. There's emotional reactions. And my goal is to hold space for remembrance, gentle, fluid, easeful. And so that's why I'm telling you, you get to decide how your body responds when you remember. You get to decide how much of that remembrance is conscious to you. And you get to decide, what to do with that information, if you want to do anything with that information. But just prioritize it, because otherwise it's super overwhelming. And then we go back to our old programming, which for most people in this realm is to dissociate and to numb. That's all.
Could you hear the thunder as you just finished your question?
I can.
Your answer?
Boom, mic drop.
Mic drop right there. At the end of last year, 2025, you received a very clear message that was, it is time to anchor the Codexes. And this coincided with the arrival of Three-Eye Atlas. And also you mentioned the expansion of cosmic consciousness on the planet, where more Ascension templates would be available to us than ever before. And then you got a vision of 12 separate Codexes over the course of 12 months that will be coming in. What can you tell us more about what are these Codexes that also coincided with a very energetic time for humanity, where all of our attention seemed to be going to this Three-Eye Atlas comet, being, spaceship, whatever we want to call it. And we were remembering a lot of the cosmic consciousness as well. So what are these Codexes that you tuned into?
That's a big one. Speaking of remembrance, these Codexes, I've done one so far this year. At the time that we're recording this, I actually just finished it. So I love that you're asking me where I now have at least one under my belt, because when you get a download, it's like, okay, let's do it. Let's see it's an experiment. It's an experiment. I mean, I had 2% of what the heck we're doing, and the rest of it I just had to trust. And what came through, Emilio, is a new template. It's a 3-hour total formula. So there's 3 days, 1 hour a day. The first 2 days were in pure light language. I sat with a group and I had 2 of my friends who were light language channelers, and we all wove in light language and there was no English to be said. So between silent meditation and light language, we opened this Codex, okay? And I've never done it before, and let me tell you, it was super awkward at the beginning. I was just like, I felt weird. It felt awkward. It felt like we were definitely bringing something new. By the end, the teams we were working with, and the one we did in January was called the Diamond Sapphire Codex. Every month is going to be a theme. The teams we were working with, which just so happened to be the whales, some of them, when I got my whale necklace on, affirmed that we were the living codex. We were the living codex. And so it's really about connecting with this cosmic consciousness. And it's kind of a remembering, honestly, right? It's like remembering that there was no disconnect in the first place. And reviving, revitalizing, bringing online those frequencies that together, and I had a group of people join me from across the world, we're creating like a lattice work and a grid that encompasses Gaia in those frequencies of that particular kind, which again for January was Diamond Sapphire. And then each month, this consciousness is going to come online. So the best way to see it is if you're looking at, like, say you live in an area where there's rolling blackouts, right? You know, like parts of the electrical grid go down every so often. Well, it's as if there are these pieces that were powered down. Most likely they were maxed out at the time of Atlantis, if we want to go back to what we were just talking about. The circuitry got fried. We've now revitalized our circuitry, our light bodies, to a degree that we're able to now bring back online these quote-unquote codexes, and they're really frequencies that go beyond what can fit into English language, that help us to access higher levels of consciousness, with the end, obviously, because I think we can talk about higher levels of consciousness all day, every day, and be like, but why in the end? Well, it's for a timeline of peace and harmony, and it's kind of the to rebalance what was for so long conflict, violence, war history, that dense history. So we're kind of bringing it back into balance. That's what those codexes are doing. And ever since I've tuned into 3i Atlas, I've just been shown that there are multiple deliveries that aren't visible to the astronomers that are still being infused into basically like little vitamins coming into Gaia, like they're little capsules of information. That's what I've seen, and that's what the Codex is.
Wow. You mentioned how the first few days of that Codex, there was no English being spoken. That also really connects to what you and I were talking off record, or before we started recording, around how there are new technologies, information that's coming in around how we can begin to facilitate the communication and our understanding of light language itself. And I also want to encompass this for everyone tuning in to maybe first a quick context around your light language and what you've been bringing through for many years now, and how you're excited about how that will start being translated into pieces of actual language that we can understand to decode those messages.
Oh, wow. Yeah, this is a big one. I am excited for these new templates of communication. And as part and parcel of what I've been exploring with light language, I've discovered this gentleman who has created a way to essentially decode it, because I feel that embedded in what we consider to be like gibberish. I mean, those who appreciate light language know that it, at minimum, feels good. Now, some people go the next step and they'll say like, oh, that sounds like this, or that reminds me of a lifetime here. But beyond that, we really haven't, I think, gone into the depths of what light language is as a multidimensional form of communication. Verbal, obviously. There's many, many other kinds. But what we're opening to is now a level of translating it. And I was at the channel panel last year in West Virginia, and Bashar spoke, and someone asked him about light language. And I can't remember the exact question, but he basically replied, well, that's half of it. Half of it is the transmission in light language. The other half, he's like, basically, there's value in interpreting it. And everybody's like, well, how do you interpret it? I mean, I have activated some templates of interpretation. So people will book sessions with me just so I can help them understand into English what they're saying, where it's coming from. Because I know how it is. Sometimes when I'm channeling light language, I'm not there going, I'm trying to interpret mine. You're in one zone. Like you're in one zone. You're just transmitting it. But again, I came across this gentleman who has kind of unlocked some things. And yeah, it's really fun to be able to see the evolution of what I think light language is, light codes. I mean, there's a bunch of different ways to say it, as you know, too. But this sort of non-structured, standard form of speaking is going to take us into levels of accessing history, galactic history, accessing other levels and layers of Earth's history that we haven't been able to yet.
Is there any light language that is wanting to come through to really anchor this conversation up to now? And who may be coming through with that light language as well?
I really feel stone elementals, the rocks, the large stones, the boulders. There's a lot of energy on the earth that is, they have a sentience. They are the record keepers of the planet, like our bones are the record keepers of our body, the bones of Gaia or the rocks. And I can see in my mind's eye some sort of beings that kind of look like, oh, who's that guy on Guardians of the Galaxy? Can't think of his name right now. He looks like a rock, or I don't know. Maybe that's that other show. That's
I am Groot.
No, it's not Groot. Now that you said that, it's actually the Fantastic Four. It's the guy that looks like
the Rock.
The Rock.
Yeah.
Okay. So anyway, I feel that kind of beings coming in, very solid, very earthy. Just helping us to anchor, I think, probably when you said that, I think that was good. So let me just sort of see what wants to come through. Ar ol araktahai kush naraaya gar unta soku ukuriata sokur ukuriata kush narahat tliaikto shaayakini kashtoko ur Ar ala iatakaya. Complete.
Thank you.
Did you notice how it felt like they were telling you something? Like they were explaining? Less than like... Did you feel like they were...
It felt slower than usual.
Yeah.
I didn't feel that they were talking directly to me, though.
Well, I meant everybody. I'm just saying, like the way that I have approached light codes, I've noticed that there's some more communicative, informational delivery where it's like they're saying, and this is this, and that is that, and the way, the style of that they do it. And then there's times where it's just for pure calibration, where it's just like, and then it's just like moving energy. But in that particular sense, not just to you, but to the whole audience here, I felt like they were sharing.
That felt like a message.
Yeah, like a message. Like a message, yeah.
We're going to need to have your friend's translator.
Yeah.
Put that into the translator. That is something that
Absolutely.
excites me a lot is because if we were to first give a little bit of an overview into light language, there's so many different styles and dialects and ways that I've heard even it come through you. But how does that tie us into our cosmic roots, where these codes that are coming through our vocal cords can actually facilitate how we relate to other species other than just the human race?
Yeah, well, there's so many ways that I could take that. One of them is just simply taking us outside of the box with what language sounds like. It's almost like watching the Star Wars movies, you know, and how they create the different languages and then they look different. It's like, hello, there's infinite amounts of different kinds of dialects that come through vocally. There's infinite amount of ways a being can look. Like, let's remember humans are not the only way that these beings, you know, or that this English is, you know, that's just like traveling abroad. For me, it's like a bigger macro expression of why I think it's very beneficial for an individual to be able to travel the world and to be introduced to new cultures and languages just on our planet. So it's like that, but a more expanded version of it. I do believe that, like we spoke about before we hopped on this recording, that there are tools emerging through different individuals, one that I actually am in contact with, that are going to accelerate our ability to actually translate the message kind of light language, not just the calibration stuff that's moving energy, but the actual messages. Because if you listen to my light language on all my YouTube, you can tell when I'm doing it just to shift frequency, and I can feel when they're saying, and I can sometimes interpret it. Sometimes I can interpret it, but they're saying like, this is what you need to do, and this is how you do it. And I can feel that if that were able to be interpreted and translated into English, it wouldn't diminish the beauty of what light language is, to bypass the conscious mind and not be in English, but it would help us further anchor in these cosmic concepts. When you bridge two languages, think about the Rosetta Stone. It is symbolic of bridging the frequency of those two groups of people. So when humanity is able to interpret what people are channeling, it is a off-planet, interdimensional spoken form of language that I know is spoken on other planets. That's how the disclosure is coming through first to prep us for actual physical disclosure. I mean, come on, the movie Arrival with Amy Adams, where those come on, it's all about language, you guys. When you connect through language, it harmonizes in a way that prevents some of what you would think would be conflict. And so that's why I feel that the first contact is coming through this language stuff. And those of us who are accessing the galactic dialects are really preparing the collective for another level of disclosure. And it's key to us accepting our cosmic origins. It's key.
I feel like every movie that has, you know, touched humanity in a big way, like that movie Arrival, there's often a lot of hidden messages in plain sight. And not to give anything away from that movie in particular, but I did want to turn it back to you and ask, do you feel that understanding this light language on a deeper level is going to help us change the way we relate to time?
Of course. Of course we're circling back to that. Yes, I have spoken a dialect similar. Obviously, the dialect in Arrival is more written, right? I have spoken a dialect before. When I channeled it, and I think it was part of a course that I gave about dialects. And sometimes when I'm teaching it, new dialects come in. Like the field is open and the people are wanting to hear it. And so my guides will go, oh, we're going to drop in a new dialect that JJ's never spoken before. And I'm like, okay, so I spoke one time, and in my mind's eye, I saw something similar to the movie Arrival when time was all jumbled up, and I could feel that language did the same thing that the language in Arrival did. I could feel it. I don't know how, like I can't tell you right now, and I haven't accessed it since, but I just could see in my mind's eye, oh my gosh, this language can do this with time. And so my answer is yes. Like I 100% think that that's what's going to happen. That can be possible.
I mean, and even to ground that even further, if I think of just the English language, there are certain words that lock you into certain realities. For example, this past year, I stopped saying the word expensive, and I changed it to either it's accessible or less accessible, because expensive immediately separates you from the experience. And so this also unlocked certain codes of abundance for me just by changing certain words that I used in my reality that, if I would catch myself, and we probably, if our subconscious works in this way where we're thinking the same thoughts that we thought yesterday, meaning that we speak the same words that we spoke yesterday, and we're keeping ourselves in this loop of language, hence the reality we are in. I can't even imagine what we could do with just completely bringing in new neural pathways. Because when you hear these codes, it unlocks the brain in a way, not even just the brain, but all cells in the body are just receiving light, because words are just information and light. So I'm excited to where this is going. I don't know if you have any other insights as to the future of all of this and where we're headed.
Well, I'll tell you what's dropping in is language can rewire the brain, right? So you just said it. I just wanted to reiterate that. Language is a very easy way to rewire the brain. There are a little bit more challenging ways that take a little bit more effort to rewire the brain. And there are some very, very rapid ways to rewire the brain. And what's coming in is language is a rapid way to rewire the brain. But I was also reminded that Vipassana retreats, at the end of the day, if you think about it, I wonder what would happen if you not only allowed yourself to release your spoken, obviously you're not speaking, what if you released thinking in language? Because, when you're in a Vipassana retreat, you still may have mental chatter. They tell you to try to clear your mind. But what if you just said, okay, fine, I want to think things, but what if I just thought in shapes and colors and images rather than even putting that? Then you're completely sort of wiping the slate clean of your natal tongue, like English, whatever it is, so that you can potentially release any parts of that particular language that are reinforcing lower density templates. So you reset with that. So I also think light language can do that. And I think that when we spoke for an hour straight, we're building to like a full 3-day retreat where I say no English allowed. And I have to laugh, Emilio, because I think you know this. I used to teach Spanish, right? In my Spanish class, we had a class rule: no English allowed in the classroom. No English allowed. So you could use hand signals, you could look it up in your book or do whatever, but you were not allowed to speak a word of English. And it's because it's rewiring us. And so I think there's a lot of potential for the word light language isn't the best, but I'll say light language, or language in general, or linguistics, or galactic linguistics, or starseed linguistics, cosmic dialects, to help us rewire. And it's all part of many different tools. You talk to people all day, every day, about all the tools that are coming in for humanity to make it more accessible for us to reach different states of consciousness and to really detach from programs that aren't serving us anymore at the deepest levels, both conscious and subconscious. And light language, for me and for many of you probably listening who are connected to light language, is one of the most powerful tools for that, to be completely honest with you.
Yeah, even if I go back to Joe Dispenza for a moment, like the way that you transform, the way that you change as a person is by changing what you fire and wire in your brain, the neurons, the neural pathways. If I'm thinking about this person every single day of my life, I have a pathway in my brain that is literally marked as a predominant aspect of how I see the world. when I think about telepathic children and the stories of telepathic children with their parents, and you've probably even had this with your children, you hear multiple times the stories where it's not that the child is sending a thought in spoken language, because many times they're just very small. They're babies. They can't even, they don't have a wide vocabulary, but they're sending images to the parents. Like if a child is hungry, it'll send a telepathic thought to the parent of milk or whatever, kids are eating at that age, right? But I'm wondering if you've had any personal experiences with telepathy with your children, or even people that you've worked with before.
Yeah, I absolutely have. I mean, that's of course connected to our big announcement that we're going to make at the end here. And I really feel that it is the new templates of communication, which is essentially what we've been talking about with light language and the dialects there, and non-spoken communication, or speaking through a different form other than verbal. So heart field to heart field, thought to thought. This telepathy, it does allow us to absolutely exit the boxes that sometimes spoken language puts us into and come into the visuals, to the images that are coming through. It's very, very interesting because I've been having on my heart over the last couple of days, like I've been feeling a lot of turmoil around what's going on in the world, because I understand that, we're living in a holographic reality and all of this kind of thing, but it doesn't mean that I can't be human and say, like, that when I see other human beings suffering, it affects me. It just does. That's a result of being grounded in a human body. Like, if you're not grounded and dissociated, you probably can just float up there, but I want to be connected. I have 8 children. They're going to have children someday. Like, I want to be here for all of them, no matter where they're at with what, realms, how they want to be connected in. And in feeling that, I realized in feeling that one day, and I was feeling it so deeply, I actually posted a reel. And it was probably one of the first times that I ever shared that I was feeling sorrow and some despair and disappointment in what was going on in the world. And it wasn't just like all rainbows and butterflies. My little starseed, who's your birthday buddy, Isaac, walks into my room and shows me this. This is a paper crane.
Wow.
And if you know anything about these paper cranes, they're a symbol of peace. So I discovered that not only had he created one paper crane, white one, by the way, if you notice, the white dove energy, he created 2 white paper cranes. Then I went into his room, because if you've ever seen these chains that they make, have you seen them? They create the chains in Japan. They have like the chains of the cranes because it's for peace, right? Mm-hmm. Just listen. So then I walk into his room, and he had created, I use this as a visual aid today on my live, he had created how many other paper cranes do you think?
12.
He created 8 more. So 8 plus 2 is how many?
10.
And how many people are
it's
in
been
my
a minute.
family?
I've
how many people are in
math.
my family?
10.
10. And who are the 2 doves that are bigger, and then the 8 little colored ones? He was telepathically tuning in to our family, a bunch of empaths needing peace. And I think that he was creating and not only like telepathically connecting with our entire family unit, but he was anchoring in codes of peace through these birds that he folded for every single member of our family. And I won't go into detail, but you guys know, like, when your kids are suffering, whether it's physical, mental, emotional, it's affecting the whole family. And these kids are coming in with this ability to feel that, and to then take action and do these little tiny things that are actually rippling out energetically. And so that's like a very potent story of, I would say, communication beyond just verbal that happened recently for me.
Wow. What a beautiful story. Like the way that he would bring it to you symbolically without having to explain what he was trying to communicate to the family. That's some high level thought process behind that, higher dimensional thought process.
He's a regular kiddo. He's 10. He likes to skateboard. He's not like meditating in his room all day, every day, like a little Buddha. Like he's a regular kid, but they're wired like in the moment. They bring it through. They bring it through. They're grounded and they have this other level of consciousness.
Yeah. A few months ago, I had been tuning in to this possibility around live interviewing, connecting in person. And it just coincided that, you came in and brought up this idea opportunity that I wanted to make some space to announce with you, and really starting off with how it came about for you as well, because it seemed like we just like tuned into the grid and it was like, all right, this needs to happen, which was very coincidental.
Speaking of telepathy, we were somehow...
Speaking of telepathy.
I mean, the whole story is pretty fascinating, but at the end, I think it was October 2025, I got a message from one of my friends who is a volunteer for the Conscious Life Expo. And she says, JJ, I just found out there's a spot. And I didn't even really know what that meant. I've never done anything at the Conscious Life Expo. And she's like, well, I heard that there was a spot available and I thought of you. So I found some things out. I did some investigating and I felt like I wanted to go ahead and do it. I thought, why not? I want to bring this through. So I let them know, yes, I'll accept this spot. I'll take this spot. And not very long after I committed to that, I had this vision in my mind of you actually interviewing me live, like you just said you've seen, as part of the presentation. I could just feel you and I've talked to you about this before, but two people holding a field is more powerful than one person holding a field, even on stage. Like I know the whole room and the audience is in on it, but with two presenters or three or a panel, right? It's very, very powerful. And so I just had a vision. I was like, who would be the most resonant person to be able to interview me? And the topic was the crystalline children and telepathy. And I felt the whale mothers too. I'm wearing my whale mother's necklace. And so that's when I reached out to you, because I just had this vision and I still remember the day. I mean, we connected over the crystalline children because you have the same birthday as my little kiddo that created we've always since day one figured this out. Like there was something about this. Like when I met you, I think he was there. Was he there? I think he was there.
He was there. Yeah.
There. It's that you have, I think, a connection to the crystalline children. I mean, you're younger. You're your age of one of my kids. But I felt like for whatever reason, the holding of the frequency for these new communication templates, for this channeling and for this activation that wants to come through at the Conscious Life Expo was harmonized with our co-creation. And we've had some reps, right? Like we've done this a few times. And so that's when I contacted you.
And obviously the message reached me at exactly the moment it needed to. And it was an immediate yes. And so we wanted to extend an invitation for anyone that is willing to either travel out to LA, which is the Conscious Life Expo location, very close to the airport. So, just landing in LAX and then finding your way over there. And also anyone that already lives close to the area is super welcome to come. But I feel that one thing when I go to these Joe Dispenza retreats and I get to meet people in person, it fills my heart so much, and it energizes me into a new iteration of my mission, because you actually get to feel people that have either tuned in or are part of this community that we've together. So that is on February 21st at 8 p.m. It's a nocturnal presentation.
That's right.
And anything else you'd like to say about, what maybe are your intentions going into that workshop or presentation together now?
Well, I've shared with you and others, the whale mothers always come with the crystalline children. And it's very fascinating that this is taking place right on the coast there. I've been working, myself and friends, we've been really feeling the activation. I mean, I still remember the day we first met again, that was close to your birthday, a couple of years ago at Hermosa Beach, right there on the beach. We were sitting there and there was the water, and it's like, there's something about that frequency coming through. The whales are all up and down the coast of California. And it's like that frequency is coming through. So even if, again, you're like, whether you live here or not, there's something happening to the grids here in this area. And I think a lot of it is also connected to sort of a rebirthing after the fires that took place last year, in fact. And there's a new grid coming online. So beyond, yes, going to an amazing conference with so many incredible presenters. I mean, if you click on the link and you look at everybody who's coming there, you're going to recognize so many names. Beyond that, the factor of being in person, like you said, Emilio, and being on this part of the grid in Southern California is, I feel, part of the whole big picture that's coming through. So yeah, that's coming to me right now. Also, I feel like I want to take you to the Channel Islands while you're here. This is actually something I'm gonna,
where is that?
Very powerful. So it's just off the coast, Ventura Beach. So a little bit north of LA, there are these islands, and I just discovered them a couple of weeks ago on the 1111 portal, the 111-2026, which is 1111 portal. And whoa, you take a boat out there. It's super pristine, just incredible energy there. And it's just coming to me like that place is powerful. There are several powerful energy nodes here in Southern California. So it's not like Sedona to everybody. It's not like Mount Shasta to everybody. But I will tell you, one of the reasons why I feel guided to anchor in Southern California this year, I'm not traveling as much as I was last year. Michael, my husband, is traveling a bunch, but I'm not.
He's taking that role.
He's like, his brand is taking off. Next is grid work. He's got a TikTok now. He's like, can I just like walk around on a TikTok and like tour places and do grid work? I was like, sure, honey, just take the phone. So now he's in Spain eating pizza today. And he's like on a live. He's like, I'm going to get some pizza and I'm going to walk around. So he's one of those, like, you see him on TikTok, like just people walking around. And so I'm anchoring here, and it has to do with the energy here. So I'm actually, really excited that you're coming, because I have no doubt it's connected to your mission. And like you said, additional upgrades, additional things, physically and geographically being somewhere. And then everybody coming together. I mean, all the names of the people coming together. These are way showers, wisdom keepers, beyond just the presenters, all of you who are going to attend. You guys are all carrying these frequencies, and we are the living Codex, and a big Codex is going to come together on this land at that time. So, yippee, come.
Beautiful. And I'm sure that many people out there are feeling that resonance, and just, we're going to drop a link to that event where people can register. Obviously, our workshop will be included in the day pass, so you can be there the whole day and meet all these amazing people, and so I'm excited. Everything that brings me to California, that's home for me, and I always feel like I know I need to be anchored here in Colombia right now at this time for many different reasons, but that's like just going back home for me, and also opening up other possibilities in the field, which will also help a lot of the codes that we're anchoring. So beautiful. So JJ will get that link to us in the description. We'll drop it in there. And we end every show, as you know, with, this is in our first rodeo, the final trio. The questions are all personalized to each guest. And before that, just simply, where would you send people to find you and all of the work that you're doing at this time?
I would say my website, activationswithjj.com. And second to that, our Instagram. Michael and I do a lot of lives where we're doing grid work. That's something we didn't really talk about today, Emilio, but it's pretty hopping over there. We've been getting on lots of lives lately, so it's fun to witness all the places on the planet where the energy is just really coming online and being activated. So those are kind of the two main ones.
Activated and laughing, because Michael is the funniest person I've ever met. So
yeah, there's a lot of humor, comedy. Yeah, definitely.
Entertainment too. So you get the best of both worlds. Beautiful. So the first question I had for you is, what have you needed to unlearn in order to truly meet this new generation of children that are coming through?
I would say perfection does not equal ascension. At least our concept, at least our concept of perfection. So if you're holding like that perfectionist template and you're like, I have to eat perfect foods and I have to like always have high vibes and I always have to like exercise every day, and then, that isn't equal to ascension. Like, I think we think we're missing the mark if we don't do all that and we're not ascending. But half of ascension is all those wonderful things. And half of ascension is being human in a human body. And sometimes, not exercising or doing all those things. And that's really become apparent with my kiddo because, again, I told you, like, he's a regular kid in all the ways. But he's an ascended master. He's an old soul. Beautiful.
Yeah, I also, for me, the importance of that balance of also living in the human experience is key for me to even also regenerate, because being in my body helps me serve and helps me communicate and helps me do all these other things. What simple human choice carries more impact right now than any other in this grand spiritual act that we're part of? Human choice.
Stillness. Practicing stillness.
Yeah. This is an interesting one. And it really ties into what we've been talking about. But to end it, what wants to be felt right now rather than simply understood by the mind?
Well, this isn't an easy one for me to say, but the emotion of grief is coming through. And I feel that it's connected to a grieving of what was, where we absolutely are shedding the old in this very final few weeks of the year of the snake. But we're shedding a lot connected to an old, quote unquote, old age for humanity and stepping into a new one. And although it had its fair share of density, there's a part of us that's still kind of attached to it and wants to honor it. And so allowing ourselves to grieve shows that we cared about what sort of we navigated as humanity, but it also allows us to sort of let go and move on to something else.
Yeah, you're speaking directly to me too. I can feel it. A lot of shedding. A lot of shedding these first few weeks of 2026, and I'm excited to get on the horse, because that's what these next few weeks of the year are gonna really anchor for all of us. So I know you've said that 2026 is the year of creativity and self-expression. So I'm excited for everyone just to tune in and really think about what they want to create this year. That doesn't have to be a project, something material. It could be, a relationship. It could be something different, a book even. Whatever it is, just tuning into that. I know I wanted to touch on that during the conversation, but then we got wrapped up in time and
That's okay. We don't have to do it all. Let's just send it telepathically through. We just send it telepathically. All the stuff that we forgot to say. Here we go.
Well, speaking of time, every time I speak to you, JJ, it feels like, time passes in the weirdest ways. And I wanted just to acknowledge you and thank you so much for seeing me and also bringing me with you into this beautiful opportunity in LA, which I'm really excited about, and opening doors for even more collaborations together, which are definitely on the horizon for both of us. So sending you so much love, and I can't wait to see you soon.
Amazing. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Such an honor to be here and grateful for our co-creations, past, present, and future.